Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to today's reading. So, this is going to be a reading about communication. We've been hearing a lot about it. Honestly, it seems like an almost daily occurrence. It comes up like, oh, you may hear from them, and it seems a little bit much. So, we're going to look into it. Plus, I got a whole bunch of notes in the last 24 to 48 hours asking if it was a good time to reach out. So we'll just kind of look at the overall state of communication. And of course, we'll see if we can get some advice on whether it would be a good idea to reach out or maybe just kind of what the environment of that would be. So it'll be a general reading. And it's a general reading for this collective. So it's not going to resonate with everybody. It shouldn't resonate with everybody. But if it resonates with you, check out some other ones. Check out some other readings because they're all very much connected, and then think about maybe liking and subscribing. So we're going to start out by looking at, I think we'll do the energetic backdrop or energetic backdrop with a lot of influence of the energy between the two of you. So sometimes we like to go with just one or the other. I think we'll mix them today. So we've got the Knight of Pentacles, slow movement continually in, you're moving toward one another, but your energies are already pretty close. You don't realize it. There's something about not realizing it, some degree of secrecy, some degree of not quite having all the details. It's really not having all the details. It's not even necessarily like an inability to move forward. It's secrecy because all the details aren't being put out there, but it's just kind of they aren't being volunteered. I would say that. Not necessarily completely unavailable. So let's see. I think it's just this one. We got the Wheel of Fortune here in the reverse. So here in this time of change, there's been a lot of change for both of you in this energy. And here, even with that, one of the things that we're seeing is that tendency for, it's like you're wanting to scrape the sides and get all of the lessons that come out, and this is not necessarily your doing or your person's doing, and this is energy between you, so it's both of you, but it feels like the universe is like kind of holding you to really getting the full experience, or making sure that you're getting lessons that maybe in the past you've seen similar things, but they haven't unfolded quite the same way as this is. This feels like this whole relationship is a little bit different, has been from the start in a lot of cases. But you still continue moving in each other's direction, even though there is, like I said, something about information that's really just not being volunteered. And that makes sense with the lack of vulnerability that we've seen in the cards. There's been a tendency toward that lack of vulnerability anyway. Hanged Man in reverse, perspectives that haven't quite been gathered just yet. These perspectives are still kind of working, and it seems like there are almost like these tides that are carrying them away, or at least not working in favor of making them happen more quickly. That's it. So it's like not quite the universe got up on the wrong side of the bed. I don't want to use that one, but I will say it's not necessarily helping you out. And I get that with the Wheel of Fortune. I think it is helping you out by making things stay still. But for your person, it ends up feeling like stagnation. For you, I think it may feel like a break. But I feel like you have grown into the ability to see it that way. So we got the King of Pentacles here in the reverse. King of Pentacles, Ten of Swords in the upright. There's memory of, you may get hit out of the blue, both of you may get hit out of the blue with memories of things that bothered you from way back when. And then with the King of Pentacles here in the reverse, it's like you end up figuring out what it is that didn't heal there. So we often talk about this being a time of, you being held in it. This being a time of figuring out the edges of your healing, and this is kind of that. You'll have a better feel for the edges of your healing because of the energy of this time where it kind of slows down, like we see with the Wheel of Fortune. That same kind of energy is coming out here with this Eight of Wands, but it kind of slows down and just has you have an opportunity to think through things a little bit more. Even if life is kind of still going crazy, something has slowed down to the point where you have an opportunity to think through it a little bit differently. So then we also have the Ace of Pentacles and the High Priestess. The High Priestess is a little bit more secrecy, but this is a lack of vulnerability type of secrecy. This is the kind of feeling where there's definitely a desire to keep something quiet, or a desire for something not to come up. I'm not going to say it's quite a lie of omission, but it definitely seems to be just kind of avoiding something and hoping that it will go away. There's an air of that, and I feel like this one is coming from your person. I also feel like there's an air of newness, so it's like that feeling of springtime. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, you're moving towards springtime anyway, but this is not about the weather or the timing. It's about the feeling of things being new and kind of coming out in a new way for the first time. So we have both the Hierophant and the Hermit in the reverse. Feelings of needing to go get some wisdom, not being sure that that the advice needs to come from where it's come from in the past. So there may be some desire to not necessarily go away from people who have given you advice in the past, but maybe to weigh it differently. So maybe you've had someone in the past that was they were someone that was really a go-to for you, but you're no longer drawn to, not that you wouldn't listen to their words, but that you may not be making your decisions that way anymore. That's okay. It's a matter of this. There's going to be an ebb and a flow with that, but going for these wisdoms, that's going to be really important, because the tricky bit is these are, again, like scraping the edges of the barrel or the bowl. It's about getting the last bits that are kind of hard to get to, and it's about lessons. It's getting the last bits of lessons that are especially difficult to access, to work through. These are the kernels of the difficult parts. Okay, and so let's get into the communication piece. You know, and there's been, like I said, there's just been so much talk of communication. So we have the Six of Swords. There's that moment of what comes out for me is like a moment of, I hesitate to use the term clarity, but it really is kind of a moment of clarity. It's a moment of clarity where they realize something about the bond, because I think they've realized it before, but sometimes they forget, like they conveniently aren't thinking about it. Yeah, Three of Wands. This is something that's already been initiated, already been set into motion. So there's likely to be communication. So I cavalierly mentioned in some recent video, well, my person is not far enough along on the healing path that they would be reaching out. You know, I'm one of the ones who will probably not hear from their person. And whereas that is probably still true, this is the energy under which we might have to say even include some of those people. Because it's very much already a done deal. It's very much already done. But you got somebody that's a little bit frustrated, a little unsure of themselves, and they have something they feel a need to control. You know, they can't. This is frustrating to them. It's a little bit, it's like this has this feeling of inevitability, but it's like it keeps pulling them back. You know, they can't get away from it, can't live with it, can't live without it, not with the pull, or with that need to run, and they have lots of a tendency to run and hide. And what's especially jarring to them is their ability to see it differently than they have before. You know, this isn't, we talked about it here. This is not their first time doing this cycle, but it's the first time that it feels like this. They're in direct contrast with you and your ability to almost like gracefully sail into change. That one fell face down. I think they're feeling the difference between your approaches to this emotionally. Yeah, they feel intimidated to a certain degree around the whole concept of communication. There's a lot of a feeling of intimidation. There's a lot of a feeling of fear, and yet that feeling of inevitability, and it's so strong that it does kind of feel like even some of those people who are like my person, could potentially reach out and just say hello. But I get the sense that it's probably not a big thing. Yeah, there's not, and this is like exactly what I was just about to say. There is not a big commitment that comes from this. Um, this feels like there's another card that keeps coming out meaning this, and I can't remember what it is right now, but it's that same exact feeling, same exact emotion. They are not wanting to commit to something new, and it has been the Ace of Pentacles. So it's a time to commit, but they really they are not interested in committing to something new. That's too much of a, it's too scary. It gets them into a place where they're not in a position where they can emotionally. They're not emotionally prepared to make the type of commitment that you are seeking. However, the interaction that you have provides them with a great deal of healing, a great deal of insight. And it's not necessarily that they're feeling wide open to it, but they are inspired. So this is the Eight of Pentacles. This is the Page of Pentacles. And, we've talked about how, I think like they're seeing the difference between your approaches to this emotionally, and they notice how gracefully you're able to handle this. And in a lot of your cases, they are, that's one of the reasons that you see them not communicating or holding back on their communication and their ability to be vulnerable so much. And it has to do with the fact that they're kind of comparing themselves to you a little bit, and they feel like they're falling short. That's something that they really desperately do not want to do here with the King of Cups in the reverse. That is a feeling of just not, they don't want to be, they want to control that narrative like we've seen before, but this is somebody who wants to be seen a certain way, and it's a very, they want to maintain a certain air about them. There's definitely still this need to complete a cycle or complete a circle or find, they got to find something. They're on a quest for something. But I think we knew that. I think that the difference here is they are actually kind of moving. Like there's a feeling here that they're actually moving on the quest as opposed to just avoiding it. There's always been a lot of this, I'm avoiding it, and to some degree they are still avoiding certain elements of it, but I do see them engaging, and that's part of what this communication is. So the nature of this, when we get over here, it's going to be about focus for you, and this is maybe where we learn a little bit more about whether you should be reaching out to them. But here with this is like, tell us about the communication with them. Okay, so we've got King of Swords, Knight of Swords, and Page of Cups. There's everybody's here. And then over here, remember, we have the King of Cups and the Page of Pentacles. There is a lot of these cards are characteristics in your person, or they represent characteristics in your person that we've been seeing come out in a lot of these videos. So the King of Cups coming out in the reverse, feeling like that, is not at all surprising. We've seen the King of Swords coming out. A lot of times it comes out in the reverse because this communication is probably not especially well thought out. And whereas the King of Swords is now coming out in the upright, it does not necessarily mean that this is suddenly very well thought out. It's more like, it's more that there is potential for solution here. So there's potential for creating a strategy. With the Knight of Swords, all that spying pays off. That's kind of what wants to come out here. So we've seen a lot of this kind of a discussion of maybe spying energy, or energy of watching you just so that they would kind of know how to approach the situation if they should have the opportunity. So this, though, with the Page of Cups, has them almost creating that opportunity, making that opportunity for themselves. And this is where you start to get that apology, possibly a botched apology. It's like, it's interesting though, because what I'm getting here is that the conversation itself, may not be super spectacular, but you'll be feeling and hearing the reverberation from it for a long time to come. What happens, what you do with this King of Swords information, what you do with the ability, the tendency, there's not just an ability for you guys to pull the information together and come up with a strategy and have a great conversation there. There's a tendency and an ability. But what I don't feel is that your person is necessarily ready to make with the vulnerability. But this Knight of Swords is coming out in the upright, and it doesn't feel, I feel some elements of it in the reverse where they just want to run and hide. That feeling is very much still there and often represented by that card. It still has that inconsistent air to it. So what we don't see here is the Knight of Wands, but I feel like we got that guy a little bit too. We got the Six of Wands, though, in the reverse. So one of the things that you'll discover from this conversation or this communication is that feeling of kind of a little bit of frazzledness coming from them. I feel like it's a little bit of, yeah, they're frazzled and they're not necessarily, it's awkward. This is a feeling of it being awkward. This is a feeling of it being, they don't feel like they're ready, but they also don't feel like they would miss this for the world. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out if there's a better way to say that. Interesting. Interesting. So I guess this is very much consistent with what we've seen before, but it tells us that they don't necessarily want to make a commitment when they jump in here. They're very much inspired by you and yet intimidated by you. They're in the throes of this lesson that they're learning, but they're also kind of shortchanging themselves to a certain degree. There's a lot of mystery that they feel like they need to keep, but that's kind of in the air, and it's really strong with them. They're ready. They're kind of more ready to learn than maybe they have been in the past, which is different. And this tendency to take all of the information together and build a strategy is a little bit different too. So I have this interesting feeling like I am not going to extend this one. So I'm just going to, I know I extend them on most days, but I'm just going to go ahead and roll into the part that's for you. And I will, I mean, if I change my mind, I feel like this is the complete message. I feel like if I change my mind, I will build or I will do an extended, but I think for now, that's the message that I'm getting, and these are the messages that we are getting around this communication. But let's look into you and just kind of find out, like, what is the area of focus for you? Same question that we always ask, but with that, we'd like to also understand if there would be wisdom in reaching out. We've gotten that question a lot. So the Tower in reverse, there is something that you are in denial about or pushing off or otherwise not feeling quite ready for. It's got, interesting, because the first thing that I think is, oh, maybe it's like the idea of not quite being ready for what will happen in this communication, and you might feel like you're ready, and then I'm like, no, I'm putting words into the universe's mouth and it doesn't feel right. These both fell face down, so we'll keep digging on that because it doesn't feel like it's a matter of that. But there's something that you're not willing to confront or not able to confront, and it's like, I feel like you know that it's there. You may even know what it is. Let's see what else comes out. So we've got the Emperor. It's a little bit of a control-y Emperor, but it's also a very get things done kind of energy. And this is around you. It's like a once and for all, get things done kind of energy. So that is energy that is within you, but it also feels like it's tied up with some sadness that may be renewed. So this may not be a new situation for you, but it may feel like the energy around it has been renewed recently. That is in the energy, and that is a big old red flag as far as the intensity of it. And I feel like that is part of the message as well. There is a great deal of intensity. You may be about to see how much with the Six of Swords here. That's a moment of clarity, but it is not necessarily a moment of calm. So a lot of times the Six of Swords can reflect. It gives you a little bit of an opportunity to reflect. It's like going from big waves into calm waters and being able to look over the side of the boat and actually see your reflection. So that's the way I'd like to think about it. Like you've gotten to a place where you can literally reflect. That is not what I'm seeing here. This is you realizing the position that you're in and realizing the position that you're in from an emotional standpoint. I think it may begin to do something to trigger this Tower. We also have the Seven of Cups though. So you end up with a lot of options, but it's not super obvious which one that you need to take. Luckily, though, you're not in a position to mess around. So here with the Eight of Swords, or you're not really in a mood to mess around. This is the first time maybe in the ever doing readings online where I've seen the Two of Swords come out like, bring me the decision. I am ready to make the decision. But coming out with this Eight of Swords in the reverse like that, that's the opposite of being, imprisoned by your thoughts. That's pretty fantastic, pretty ready to make a conclusion. Let's see what I dropped. I do have the Strength card. So I have the Strength card, but it's coming out in the reverse. This is a feeling of, okay, this is telling you, it doesn't say don't reach out, but what it says is the feelings are stronger than you might realize right now. And so you may have created a little bit of distance, or they may have created a little distance that created a lot of pull in you and a lot of insulation as to how it's going to feel when so they don't have the ability to really be consistent. And when they back out again, when they ghost back out, this is just saying you may be overestimating your ability to deal with that gracefully and easily, but you are in a great place to make a decision. You also seem to know what it is that you like, but you haven't found the exact situation that makes you happy. So there's something here where you just feel very aware of the things that you think you could improve on. I won't say they make you unhappy, but things that are not your wish fulfillment that you feel like you could improve on. Here with the King of Wands in the reverse, we have the King of Wands and the Two of Wands both in the reverse here. And I feel like this one's about control and this one's about not knowing exactly how to make a trip. So this is the Two of Wands sometimes refers to travel, and oftentimes for this collective, it refers to traveling an emotional distance. In this case, it refers to traveling that emotional distance, but it is something about not being able to figure out how to make that trip. It's about a change in values that constitutes a change or a movement, a move in emotional distance, a traveling emotional distance, but they don't know how to make it happen. They have made part of it happen. We've watched that in the readings. They don't exactly know how to make the whole thing happen. They have a serious issue with the way that why are they coming out on your side? Because this is about your decision, and this is about their inability to travel the emotional distance. But I think maybe that's relevant. So their inability to travel that emotional distance, their desire to control and kind of like control the narrative like we've seen here. This is more about controlling the narrative, controlling how things move, how quickly things move, etc., things like that. I feel like that's all part of the warning. And it's not a warning like, ooh, don't do it, it's going to be disastrous. It's more about really examine the reasons that you are doing what you're doing. So Five of Pentacles here in the reverse. Here is the acknowledgement of the progress that you've made in the areas of the big three. So that fear of betrayal, abandonment, rejection. It's about looking at how far you've come and saying that, you may be creating a little bit of a setback if you make the decision to reach out to this person. Also, that's another thing that kind of comes through with that. It's acknowledgement of what you've done and acknowledgement of the self-worth that's come from that. You have some other partnership that you are supposed to be focusing on. I kind of did not expect that to come out. So yeah, there's something about a partnership here, and I'm done drawing those cards. So there's something about a partnership here that you need to focus on. It could be related to work. It could be related to someone in your family, some kind of third-party partnership. Except it may not be like what you would consider third party, because it does not necessarily heavily impact the relationship with your person, except that it impacts you. And so that's going to be kind of significant. So I guess when we look at it overall, there's a lot of a message that it does not specifically say you should reach out or you should not reach out. Now, I remember that in a recent reading, and it might have been, I can't remember if it was a YouTube reading or if it was one of the extendeds, there was a card that came out that said, "Hey, this is not a great time to reach out to your person." It felt somewhat temporary, but it happened. And I remember they sent a note and said, "I acknowledge that this card comes out, but could you please ask anyway?" So for you, I will say they are, and for everyone, I will say it is not specifically saying yes, reach out or don't reach out. This is not that type of instruction. However, what it is saying is there is potential for setback. Um, it doesn't say you can't talk to them. It's just saying that there is a potential for a setback and you may not be quite prepared for the level of it, maybe overestimating your ability to manage the situation. And there's something in this tower. I'm super curious about that. That makes you, what is it that would make you, or what is it that you could be avoiding? Um, so I still feel like I'm not supposed to do an extended on this one. So I think I will do your oracle card because usually I put all the decks out there and then I save the oracle card for the extended because that's just something that started happening and feels right. And but I want to go ahead and give it to you. So I pulled the oracle card is, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's really just little piece of advice to go over the top and kind of pull everything together for you. So a lot of times it's in light of there's a connection between this message and the rest of the messages that have come out. But this one is really more advice for you. And I decided to use the Moonology deck because I feel like I'm still getting the impacts from that moon, even though it's been a few days. Okay, emotions are running high, supermoon. Yes, emotions are running high, but the thing to note here, and an interesting thing that immediately comes out with that card, is that emotions are running high for both of you. This is not just the situation that's happening for you. This is also the situation that's happening for them. We see a little bit over here. We've done entire readings on their emotions here lately because this has been pretty evident that this was coming out. So, I feel like this isn't surprising, but it is especially high. It's the reason that I was saying up here, even those folks that you maybe are expecting, you're the ones that you're not going to hear from your person. This is the sort of energy where that may still happen, and it's not even a Mercury retrograde. So it's but it's still. I feel like you're. I made the comment some time ago that it seemed like you were having your own personal Mercury retrograde, and I have to say it still kind of seems like that, especially in this energy, though. So I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. We will get back together tomorrow, and I will see you then.